Of the RIT operations that was taught to myself, Cody, Costa. You guys know the backstory. This is kind of where the region's heading. We talked about that before. That copy of the RIT operations is nice to have because it's all color. It's got everything A to Z on what a RIT setup, deployment, all that looks like. So that's going to be sitting in the station. Flip through it. A lot of this stuff we have to practice company level. We don't have time to multi-company every single drill, every movement out there. They're all in this RIT ops. So look at them, play with it as a company, and kind of hone our knowledge, skills, and abilities that way. So just let's review a couple things. RIT this is a regional push for us to get on the same page in terms of how we set up, how we deploy, how we find a downed firefighter, how we package them, how we move them, how we communicate. All that's what we're trying to get standardized regionally, and we're getting close. The reason why we're getting close is because we're starting to teach it the same way in the academy as these guys, most of these guys in this room are academy guys. So you guys all got where we're headed. So this should be review for you guys. A lot of people in the past, don't want to be assigned to RIT, this and that. It should be a badge of honor if you get assigned to the RIT position. It means that you have one of the most important jobs on the fire ground, and whether or not you're deployed doesn't matter. There's a ton of work to do as a RIT crew. Okay, we'll go through that. A couple of numbers. It takes 12 firefighters to rescue one. That all comes out of the Seattle and the Phoenix RIT studies. In that rescue attempt of 12 firefighters to one in 5 will get in trouble themselves. So you can see how our numbers keep going up and up and up, and how this thing expands as it develops. They take on an average of 6.5 minutes to find a downed firefighter. It takes on an average of 21 minutes to remove that downed firefighter in training conditions. So obviously air is our biggest commodity, and we built this, we built your guys' skills and our skills right now from the search, kind of the search foundation forward. So you guys are comfortable with air management, calling out air to your captain, searching with a tick, point-to-point oriented search rope type stuff, right? That is all the same now with RIT. All that stuff applies. It's all the same deal. We're just now going after a downed firefighter versus a civilian victim. Search rope techniques are all the same. When you get there, you're going to tie that search rope off somewhere within the vicinity 3 to 5 feet of that downed firefighter. Once that search rope is tied off in the vicinity of that downed firefighter, you're going to work on packaging. Everybody's going to have their job, and we'll go over that today so we're all on the same page. So let's talk about it. You pull up, you get assigned RIT. What are we doing?
Sizing up the structure.
Sizing it up. What else are we doing?
Find a good staging area.
And where would that be?
Corner.
Yeah, on the corner out of the way. Out Bravo.
Why
out
corner?
Delta.
So you can see people working on each side.
What else would determine where you stage RIT?
Entry point,
Yeah.
egress, ingress, looking at all that stuff.
Where crews are working.
Yep.
If everybody's working on Charlie Delta, it does us no good to be on Alpha Bravo. So maybe Charlie Delta is where you're going to be setting up. So good. Size up the structure. Listen to the TAC channel immediately. Determine where crews are working, how many are working inside, what their air is as those crews are calling those proactive CAN reports out to IC. You guys are listening as that RIT team going, all right, sounds like everybody's over Charlie Delta. That's where we're going to set up. Set up, size up. What about tool cache? What are we thinking?
Front ladders, you're grabbing all the tools you may need, the brick bag, rope bag, fucking saws, yeah, exactly.
Depends on the building. What tools you're in.
It does. It depends on the building construction. That's part of our size up of that building. You know, obviously we don't have all the security bars, etc., but you know, our rotary saws, our chainsaws, ladder work, long tools, sledgehammers. You guys all know all this stuff. We don't have right now a standardized, these are the items that we're going to bring to our RIT staging area. I think as a crew, as a captain, that's something that we're developing right now together. And hey, depending on the building, let's bring this, make sure we got this stuff. In this RIT Ops book, there's cool stuff about how they carry that equipment over to the RIT staging area. Whether you're using a ladder, throwing your RIT tarp down on the ladder, loading your tools on it, hauling it over, whatnot. That RIT staging area then is sacred. Nobody touches those tools, right? So on the fire ground, if you're not part of RIT, we don't say, oh man, that's so much easier to grab that long tool than go all the way back. RIT is stuff.
We'll grab it.
Who are we losing?
Just a second.
So yeah, man, when you guys get assigned, that initial setup phase is critical. Sizing up the structure, determining where crews are working, 360 of the building, that's something your captain and as a crew you should be doing. Determining your problems that you have to fix, whether it be access, ladder work, basements, building construction. Determine your problems and how you're going to fix them and prioritize those problems. Communicate all of that information based on what you think you want to do back to IC once you have that plan. Okay? So hey, you know, IC, we've completed our 360 size up. We've got access issues on the Bravo Charlie side. We're going to start softening the building, throwing ladders for second means of egress. Even though you're hearing everybody on Division 1, Division 2 may be where they end up. Okay? Yeah, copy that. Once you deal with those problems, you continually size up that structure, you continually monitor those crews, and you may or may not have to move your RIT with where the work's being done. Larger departments have the luxury of maybe an Alpha and a Charlie RIT on bigger buildings. We're probably not going to have that. So you can, and you may have to, depending on where you think the major risk is going to be, move your staging area, communicate that to IC. You, in addition with this training and safety captain, are those eyes on that building. You're watching changes of condition. You're listening for problems within crews. You're listening where their air is, that they move to Division 2, to Charlie's side. You're trying to be proactive on, if something happens right now, where are we going and how are we getting there? Up to and including clicking on air, notifying IC, stepping into the building a little bit and getting a look inside. Figure out where that stairwell is. Figure out where the guys are working. Get a mental image. Step back out. You're that much further ahead of the game. Okay? Input or questions on any of that stuff?
At what point does that, I guess, what level is that considered freelancing, or, you know what I mean? I guess we're trying to get away from that.
Not freelancing at all. You got to communicate with ops or IC, you know, that, hey, we're going to be making entry Alpha side, sizing up the interior of the structure. We'll be inside approximately 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah, copy that. Advise them on what you want to do and why you're doing it, and they'll turn you down if they don't want you to do it. Okay. Part of that's got to be a mentality switch by all of us that's proactive work. Mm-hmm. You know, you're not getting yourself pinned back in a corner, but you know how valuable it is to come into here and tick that area and then step back out and be like, oh yeah, I see exactly what we got going on. Did you guys see this? Did you see that one over there? Did you see that pallet of stuff over here? Did you see that high rack storage over there? Boom, step back out, click out. eyes up, circling, looking at the building, watching condition changes, the whole thing. I know in Carson, that's what they expect of their RIT. Their RIT is kind of their training side of things. It is their eyes on the building, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think Chief Lochran, what's he always say? He's always like, communicate your intentions to the command. Let command decide if they feel that that's appropriate or inappropriate, but you're going to communicate your intentions based on what you've, the information you gathered, and they can say, no, you know, hold off on that.
Yeah, identify and communicate. You know, ask them a question pertaining to VES. Basically going in a window, we always go to that one door, peek out the door into a hallway, close it, but if you see another room right there, you can potentially search other rooms off of that, but you have to let command know, because they know where interior crews are, they know where the seat of the fire is. They'll let you know if they're allowing you to go a wee bit deeper. You know, they're not going to probably let you go in this window here and go all the way to the other side of the building. But if you had a couple of rooms that you could clear very quickly, let them know. Just don't go do it.
Yeah, that kind of ties into what we were talking about yesterday as far as the flow path, because remember what I said, when you're breaking that glass and you're entering in, he talks about communicating with that crew below. They're going to notice the change if you got a wind, lots of wind on that side of that structure. So if you're going to do something like that, like Denny was saying, you know, what you're doing is you're leaving that window open for a while unless you actually close that door. But that's when creating another flow path for those crews that are working in there and feed that fire more oxygen if they haven't found that fire yet.
But if you have
That's
another
why
room
you're
out there,
communicating with
close that bedroom door, hit command, say, be advised, we're VES Division 2, Charlie side. I got two other bedrooms on the other side of the hallway I can go clear. Are you okay with that? He's going to let you know whether or not he's allowing you to do it or not. And if not, you're out the window. If you are, you're going to do it quick, you're going to come back out, and then he just knows the timetable, where you're at, what you're doing, and you're coming back out.
Yeah, okay, I guess my question, so, and this is what I mean when I say freelancing, so it sounds like that now we're like doing other tasks like VEIS, things like that, when we're, I guess we're, you know, we're part of RIT still, but it sounds like we're doing.
I was using that in the example of if you need to extend at all, or go in the building to take a look, you're not doing that without running that through command, and they're going to tell you yes, or they're going to tell you
Yeah,
no.
one example would
I
be,
understand.
Yeah, I used the example
Okay.
of VES.
Okay.
not doing that with RIT.
Okay, okay.
No, that was an
Yeah,
example.
So that's just an example of communicating your intention and why to command. You know, not necessarily steering command, but you got to paint that picture for them based on what you've been put in place to do, and tell them what you want to do and why, and you know, succinct communication. And they're going to either override you and say no, or say yeah, go ahead. The value of so that's why back up to the very beginning, it should be an honor to be placed into RIT, because you should be putting your best people in there. You know, we don't have that luxury all the time, obviously, because we're resource limited. But you are much more comfortable, I would imagine, as an IC or an operations, when you're like, I've got X, Y, and Z in RIT, and when they ask me they want to take a look inside, I'm letting them. If I got A, B, and C in RIT, and they ask me if they could take a look inside, I'm not letting them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I have no idea what their intentions are or what they're doing, because they've never shown anything through training or anywhere that they're capable of doing what they're asking me to do. So I'm scared of allowing that. So that's, you know, that's all part of any part of our operation, right? You got crews that are you know, comfortable doing certain things, some that aren't, and it could be for a variety of reasons. But I think if the intention is communicated clearly to IC and give them the opportunity to say yay or nay on that, that'd be a good way to go about it. We'll talk about some other things further down the RIT line, like removing the down firefighter's pack for transport out of the situation. These are all calls that have to be made in that situation. That would be more of a company RIT call, but all difficult calls to make, but you're trying to do what's best with the information you have to be the most effective. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that answers or not, but that's what we're going with. That's what we're going for.
I think you kind of confuse it with we're with the VEIS almost. That's what you were thinking, I think, when he said that. When he was just giving that example of VIS.
Yeah, by no means, Coach, should you click on there and the three of you go inside without communicating to IC that you are now in the building. You know, that's freelancing 100%.
Yeah.
The last thing we want is RIT become part of the problem where now we got additional people in trouble.
You know, I use the example, and you guys have probably heard it before, when I was on that Carson incident, they went below the floor because in the crawl space area they had fire in this house. So they found access in the master bedroom, and a company of 3, engine company, went underneath the house, crawled to the alpha side from about, I don't know, probably midway down delta side, with a hose line to extinguish some fire underneath the floor. To me, that was a scary, risky move. We were RIT on engine 12. I immediately was on the radio to IC saying that we were moving our position over to delta side. We were fully ready to deploy. I have asked for permission to go inside and see where they accessed the crawl space, and he granted it, so I can figure out how the hell do we get to these guys if they get stuck under there? What's going to be our best way in? Is it cutting a hole through the floor? Is it where they went in? So I went in and we did all that stuff, gained our information, stepped back out, and stood right there ready to go. You know what I mean? We had the RIT pack and everything right there ready to go. Because that's a hot, you know, you're hearing that on the radio, you're like, oh, that's going to be possible trouble. So just some different things there. So when you guys do pull together your tool cache and you're out 360 in your building and you're softening it, you're aggressively softening it, obviously maintaining flow path control at all times. Pulling tools, here's kind of 5 things all out of that RIT book that you want to think about. How you're going to get in and out, what you're using to search with, like our rope bag, you know, sledgehammers, irons, saws. What's your air delivery, which is our RIT pack. Access to the firefighter once you get to him. What are you going to need to untangle him, cut him out, unbury him, and how you package him for removal. Those are kind of the main groups you want to hit and be able to accomplish with your RIT cache sitting there wherever you staged it. So, things to think about. Cool on that? All right, now we get to the point where you actually have a RIT deployment. We have a firefighter in trouble. Somebody is down within the structure. You are going to be deployed. Nick, you could probably answer this better than me. I'm trying to remember back to our new fire attack procedure. We are going to assign a RIT officer, correct?
Yes.
And that's going to be probably you.
You know, we talked about assigning the safety officer as RIT officer that will be involved because of the fact we've already been doing 360s around the building. We've kind of got, you know, eyes, ears, listening and everything. So that was the plan for it, to put us in that position.
So with that, Nick then becomes your direct report. You know, you report directly to him. He's running the RIT deployment. 3-person crews work better than 2. 3 is kind of the optimal number. We're employing the same search rope techniques, if required, that you would on a civilian search. So the same positioning. Engineer, somebody on the rope bag, captain up front with a tick, firefighter trailing with the RIT bag. The same etiquette's followed with the search rope. The same oriented point-to-point search is utilized with your tick. You're obviously listening now for a pass alarm as well. So that's your other clue to where that down firefighter is. That down firefighter is obviously setting off the pass alarm, making their mayday communications, etc., turning on lights, doing everything they need to do to either A, find their way out, or B, alert you guys where they're at. Search rope is not every time. Use what you guys think is the smartest way to get in. If you really truly feel that it's 10 feet inside the structure with ceiling collapse on the downed firefighter and you don't need the search rope because it'd be quicker without it, That's a call you're gonna have to make, and it may be the right call. If you feel you need the search rope, because why do we use the search rope? What's one of the main reasons? Because it's gonna take multiple crews to get that down firefighter out, so that 12 to 1, that search rope becomes our super highway to that down firefighter, so we don't have to re-find them every time. And it keeps our biggest commodity, our air. It helps us keep as much air as possible. So that's the huge reason for that search rope is once you guys find that down firefighter, you might be in a position where you gotta get out because your air's low. And you don't want to become a part of the 1 in 5. So at that point, you find the down firefighter, you secure your search rope within the 3 to 5 feet of that down firefighter. The person with the search rope's looking for exits closer to where you located the down firefighter. If they happen to find exits closer, that's an opportunity to toss that search bag out of that exit opening.
Speaking of the highway that you talked about too, when we practiced that last week when you guys were in here, when the guys said they got in that first crew, we made it to 8 knots. We're having to stop 8 knots and exit the structure. So now that lets you know is that next crew coming in, you're going straight under counting those knots fast as you're going, you're getting at 8, and now you're continuing from that 8 knots on with that searching around that knot and then moving on. So that's where the highway comes in. That he's talking about that next crew coming in fast, getting right to where they need to search.
And that's why we try and keep the rope discipline of always being on the right side of the rope. So if you're coming out, you're on the right, crew's coming in or on the right, we can kind of pass without running into each other. There could be a quick pass off, captain to captain. You know, you're always not going to be on the right if it's on a corner, hung up, whatever, firefighters over the rope, tools under the rope. We can make those adjustments and then reform up on the appropriate side of the rope and keep going with our operation.
You know, so you deploy it in here with your rope, you find the down firefighter here, you tie off on this wall, you now locate this window. This is all the rope, search rope guy's job. He now tosses this rope bag out this window. If you lose orientation, you can advise the RIT supervisor, IC, ops, whoever, hey, our search rope's outside of the structure. That is where we're going to extricate the down firefighter from. So it's just an easy location identifier. So that's the job of the search rope guy. The captain is getting ready to communicate. The firefighter handles pack can. He comes up with a RIT pack. He turns off the pass alarm. He assesses the down firefighter and checks his air, see if he's conscious, unconscious, what's broke, what our problems are. He immediately, obviously, if he finds an issue with the SCBA or air, we're going to deal with that. He's going to communicate that information to his captain, and then his captain's going to call over the radio with that CAM report. So once I get the information from Kuntz that we located Lysing, Lysing's got a broken leg. We've got to transfill his bottle. Everything else is intact. We're going to RIT tarp him out of that Charlie side window. We need additional crews for help. As soon as I get that information from Kuntz, I call out to whoever I'm reporting to and give that CAM report. So that pack can follows the new can and can same system. So it's trying to keep it all in the same family of rope. So you're not having to remember all these different things. This again is just kind of a brief overview of how the whole thing plays out. Remember, and I think 14, you guys maybe went through it with Santos. I heard you talking with Cody about it. All the different ways to deal with air, whether it's buddy breathe, transfill, you know, through the UAC, MMR, swap, full mask swap. All of those skills, those KSAs, those knowledge, skills, and abilities have to come together when we're out here sizing up, when we hit the door, when we run the rope, when we work the RIT bag, when we assess the down firefighter, when we move them. That's all the practice we have to do hands-on these next couple sets. all those touches, getting ourselves exhausted, hypoxic, remembering how to assess, remembering how to UAC. You know, part of your assessment may be, hey, we cannot get to his UAC, he's low on air. She's low on air. Well, we've got to figure that out. Are we going straight to the RIT pack? And then if we're straight to the RIT pack, are we removing that firefighter's bottle so they're easier to move? And we're staying on the RIT pack? Those are all things we'll practice coming up. Okay. This pack can is critical. Search rope guy, critical. He does his job, secures it, finds an exit, joins in on packaging the firefighter. The firefighter's job of assessing the downed firefighter and dealing with air, extremely important. The captain can mix in and help anywhere possible, just remaining SA, situationally aware, good clear communications, and keeping the direction of the operation headed forward. Because a lot of the decisions the captain's making right here is, we may get the UAC, the transfill done, and the captain's called for a second team to come in, and we're headed out. Because we're going to be too low on air, and we don't want to become part of the 501. That's part of that SA, that captain or that lead guy and that RIT crew is, do we go or do we stay? If you can, get that crew coming in early, and you can have that communication on the rope like we practice in all of our search drills for victims.
You're still working on 25 plus, is that's when you're exiting the building?
We're still working, you know, it's RIT, so you're obviously
25, sorry.
risking a lot to save a lot.
Yeah.
But you do not want to become part of the 1 in 5. So those are the calculations you have to make. How much did it take you to get in? What's it going to take you to get out? And what do you have left if there's a problem on the way out? Is that rules of air management? Hey, I don't think you're going to get in any type of trouble. I think you don't want to get yourself into reserve air when you hit the door. That's probably pushing it a little too close. I don't think you're going to get in any type of hot water doing that in a RIT situation. You will in a fire attack situation, with nobody in the structure. Obviously, two different situations, but you get it, Questions on that stuff, gentlemen? Anything come up with kind of a size up, deployment, what your different jobs are. Now, if it's a 2-person operation on the RIT team, that's what it is. You're in with a search rope, you're dragging the RIT pack, you're doing the best when you can when you get here. As soon as you find that down firefighter, you're calling for additional resources. You're going to need it.
Just something like, so if you do throw your RIT pack out the window, let's say.
Not your RIT pack.
The rope bag.
The rope bag,
The rope bag out the window. Let's say you had to break the window out. To do that, you're creating a flow path. I know that obviously the down firefighter takes precedence over the entire incident. But let's say it's a big building and you do have an interior crew, fire attack crew. Are you just communicating that with IC and their job is to communicate that with fire attack? Or are you giving fire attack heads up, hey, just created, an opening?
Sure. Well, let's take it from the beginning. So one of the things we always want to think about doing is isolating ourselves, right? So if we can get into this room, close the door, maybe that secures flow path so when you take that window. Taking the window, right, we're all thinking firefighters. Taking the window right away before we have package, air, and all that done, probably not the smartest thing to do if you're concerned about flow path because you can't control a door and isolate yourself into that room. Maybe it's, Denny comes over to me, hey Cap, we got a window right there. It's going to be perfect for our egress. You can communicate that out. He doesn't have to tell me that, but I can communicate that out. I left the window intact till we're ready to go. I get it. Good thinking, smart. Now we get them aired up, packaged up, and if we're staying to extricate, now we can communicate to our resources outside. Hey, we're going to pop a window and toss our search rope out. I believe it's Bravo Charlie corner. somewhere in that area. Now we can go ahead and effect that, ready to go, and hopefully fire tech crews are still maintaining and holding what they got or improving conditions. Does that answer? Rafe, did you have something?
That was pretty much my question.
Okay. So yeah, that's those decisions, that thinking stuff that everybody's got to do in each one of their jobs to make this go is a very difficult situation go as smooth as it can. Everybody stays disciplined in their position, makes smart choices, communicates their information to the captain so he can communicate his CAN report back out. Additional resources early, rules of error management, knowledge, skills, and abilities practice, what we'll do hands-on today in the next couple of sets. And then your company level stuff. We can't cover everything that you can do out of this book, and this is a very basic, clean program. It's got all the basic drags, carries, moves. But you know, if you don't touch it, you lose the skills. So today, we're going to work on, when you get to the downed firefighter, the packaging of that firefighter, the assessment of the firefighter, the air management of that firefighter. Okay, there's some things we're going to want to do when we find that downed firefighter. First and foremost is deal with the air situation. Make sure we have that air secured. One of the other important things we're going to want to do is turn this pack into a harness. So we're going to, that sounds like a simple deal. Unclick the waist strap, put it between the legs. There's ways to do that that's efficient, and there's ways that aren't efficient. And we'll practice some of those those best practices today. So we'll get some of those touches, and then next set, we'll start running some live, full-out search drills with visibility, and then we'll move into zero visibility. Okay? We'll practice with the RIT tarp a little bit today as well. Get some touches with that.
And then with that, it goes the movement. And I know we've harped on this over and over and over, it's teamwork. So there's always kind of one person leading the commands on the movement. And that's not the time to figure out if we're going on where everyone's lifting on 1, 2, 3, go, 1, 2, 3, ready, go. You get 3 different people, 2 different people lifting on 3 different commands. You know, we've always used the ready, go. We know that as a company. So when the lead guys, when we're in position, we're going, you ready? I'm ready, ready, go. We lift together, we maximize our efforts. Same as if we got to get somebody over this table, if it were to be a sofa or something, we know our moves through practice and training, but it's still those simple commands to where we're using the effort at the same time, and we're maximizing our movement and keeping what we've gained. If we're trying to get somebody out a window, up over a sofa, up over a down file cabinets, whatever it may be. And that'll help us in our air management and our efficiency moving towards the exit.
So our goal is at the end of this month to be comfortable with our size up of the building, our softening, what we're looking for, how we listen to the radio communication, and how that affects us as a RIT team. That we have the mentality to be active RIT pre-deployment, active on the outside of the structure, constantly listen to the radio, constantly reassessing conditions, constantly assessing our problems and coming up with solutions before they occur. That's our goal of being an active, effective RIT team, pre-deployment, with appropriate communication back to ops or IC as you find those problems and fix them. Okay? We can over-communicate there, but there's a right amount of communication there that needs to occur that instills the confidence in that IC that you've got a handle on what's going on inside the structure and what your problems are going to be if we have a RIT deployment. Okay, that's our goal and our mentality we want to get out through this month. Then we want to make sure we've got our positions and what we need to do in each position off the search rope, which I've said it 3 times already, comes right out of our civilian search technique. It's all the fundamental basics for us now. How we deal with air management, how we package, how we move, and how we communicate all that stuff. A couple other numbers. 350 degrees is an average of where our mask fails. Okay? Flow path, standing in the middle of flow path. High heat, not ticking conditions and not understanding, as we hear a pass alarm towards that Charlie, not understanding what kind of heat's coming out of that door, what effect that can have on our PPE. 350 degrees, we can have mask failure. 500 degrees, what's that? Turnout issues. Nance, Tarver, and Langer, we all remember them. Langer was the firefighter that lost his life in Denver, and subsequently the Denver Drill was created. RIT Tarver, we all know out of Phoenix in that story. John Nance, if you haven't read up on that story, all of those case studies are in the back of this. I'm dumb, I can't remember stuff. Every time I read it, I'm like, oh yeah, that was crazy. What they learned. Hopefully we can, at the end of the month, get to some of those drills again to retouch them and refresh them, because they're all good skills. A lot of that may have to come just at the company level, as we got time in between our busy, crazy days, you know. Questions, boys? Everybody got a good idea of what we're trying to achieve, what the expectation is the rest of this month for RIT, where our mentality needs to be, and how we develop our skills, so when we get called to that situation, we all deserve to have the best RIT team come in, so let's do that for each other. Denny's going to organize kind of a couple stations, and we'll touch the assessment of the firefighter as we get there, okay? And the packaging and all that.
So this is our RIT pack, 60-minute bottle, 2,400 liters of volume. We got a gauge up front, a little bit different than the one we have now. We don't have a pass activation on this. We will always turn this thing on prior, as we get deployed, it'll be turned on outside the structure, so when we go in, it's all ready to go. There's some significance of this pack. We got what we call a low ball and a high T. If you can remember this, the high T has got that high pressure UAC transfill connection. That's going to be basically plugged into the transfill connection on the firefighter's pack. It's going to transfill, equalize both systems, and then we would be able to disconnect that for moving on from there. Low ball has got a few components in here. Low ball meaning low pressure hose. So it's going to be your low pressure buddy breather connection.
That's not how to have it stored.
So this can go in a couple different places. This can go into the firefighter's buddy breather connection, or it can go into his MMR connection, which is lesser of a preferred method. We'll talk about that in a bit. We also have a face piece and an MMR. We can just replace the MMR if that's what we deem to be the failure on the firefighter. If there is a mask failure, at that point you would replace both of these. You would replace the face piece and the MMR together, and there are certain steps that we're going to go through to talk about how we do that. We're going to talk them in relation to being a two-person maneuver and the steps about going through that. So those are the 5 different ways that we can deliver air. So the first air delivery method we're going to talk about with the steps of doing it is replacing the firefighter's MMR, mask mounted regulator. This would be determined once we find the firefighter and we go into our progressions of what our responsibilities are. And the firefighter that's working the RIT pack goes up and starts his pack cam, the initial PAC of the pack cam. We're going to shut the pass alarm off. We're going to assess the firefighter of their alertness and then any issues with the air. We talk about a lot of times there's going to be two instances where we have issues with a pack, and it's going to be free flow or no flow. Free flow, for instance, you've got a bypass valve that's maybe broken off in the on position, and we're unable to shut it off. So we've identified that, and we've determined that the regulator, the mouse-mounted regulator, is no longer being effective, so that's what we're going to switch. Other free flow opportunities that could be out there would be connections into the cylinder itself, which you would have to assess and fix, or breaches in any hoses within the SCBA itself. No flow situations would be if you may have the diaphragm that's stuck and it is no longer able to be engaged. You have zero air left. So those are all things that we would have to identify on the assessment part. But what's that?
The bottle got turned off.
Yeah, bottle got turned off. But this situation is we're going to do the scenario that Ryland has a free flow situation that we cannot mitigate, i.e. the bypass valve's on, we can't shut it off, and we're going to swap out his regulator. So the steps in this is a two-person process. Jamie, I'm going to have you simulate being the firefighter that was on the pack. I was running the rope bag. So my role and responsibility at that point is to go past the firefighter and find the spot in order to tie this rope bag off. Captain's going to step to the side. He's going to start communicating to command that we found the down firefighter. Jamie's doing his pack. I'm tying the rope off. Once I tie the rope off, my responsibility at that point is to come back and support Captain Buck. He's the one that's already started assessing Ryland to figure out what's going on, and I'm coming back and Jamie, what do you need? And
Go ahead.
so at that point, he's going to tell me we're going to swap out his regulator. So through training, I now know what my roles are. So let's go ahead and lay back. And this is dynamic, depending on positioning and situation. Not always am I going to come to the backside of the firefighter. It may just be that positioning has it to where I now take the roles of the RIT pack, replacing the mass-mounted regulator. In a perfect world, he's dealing with the pack right there, so he'll probably stay there. I'm going to come back and be the firefighter that gets behind Ryland, sit him up, and I'll have my responsibilities from behind him. So I'm going to get back around, I'm going to sit him up, I'm going to put a knee right into his back. At this point, Jamie is going through the process of hooking that all up. Me being the firefighter in the back, I got to do a couple things. We all know it's a quarter turn cherry on top to the left to click in your mass-mounted regulator. I'm going to disengage the locking mechanism on the regulator and turn it an eighth of a turn. So the locking mechanism's already been disengaged, and I am now 1/8 of a turn from releasing the mass-mounted regulator. At this point, Jamie's going to take over communications with Ryland, and you'll hear what he's going to do.
Ryland, we're going to swap your MMR. When I tell you take a deep breath, hold it, and we're going to switch. Got it? All right, take a deep breath.
So with this move, a lot of times we can engage the diaphragm ourselves with some pressure on the front of the regulator, with some forward pressure on it. It will create that negative pressure inside the mask area to engage that diaphragm. Because we don't know if he's got a chest wall injury or anything like that, and it's just going to engage that diaphragm, so he's easily available to start breathing now. It's just a little help on his end. So pretty simple. Once again, we want to remember to disengage the flow button on top, because if I don't hit this as I turn it off now, he's bleeding air out of his regulator. So already maybe a depleted bottle, and I don't mitigate this over here, we got it here just bleeding off air, and that's going to defeat the purpose, especially if we're going to try and use this. Now it might be a transfill situation to where we re-up his bottle. We're probably gonna lose this at this point, just so it's not another grab point, and now we're off and going.
I think, Denny, you touched on it a little bit earlier when you're using a low pressure out of the RIT pack to hook into the down firefighter. There's a couple of places you can go, obviously body breather. And if for some reason Ryland's in a position where we can't get to his body breather because it's buried in debris, we can't get to his UAC because it's buried in debris, and he's in a low air situation, we can go directly, put your regulator on. We can have him take a deep breath and go directly into his MMR. This is frowned upon as a go-to move because you have to be extremely careful of taking your buddy breather or your buddy breather from your RIT pack and going directly into his bottle because Ryland's now, and this has happened in multiple trainings, and it's become, it's a big enough issue that, you all right, Ryland? It's a big enough issue that when you're hypoxic, you're stressed out, just make sure you're going back into his MMR. And the way you can do that is once you unhook from his pack, you never let go of this MMR connection until you have it connected. So you don't get confused and go back into his bottle. It's happened in training, it's just something to watch out for. So Ryland's at 75 on his air. The RIT pack's on. If we disconnect him here, or this one, all right? Oh yeah, either one. Let's say we go into his buddy breather. Even though he's 75 on air and the RIT pack's full, his vibra's still going to go off. So that's kind of a confusing thing to have happen. But the pressure coming out of the RIT pack bumps up to 180. So through through our
First stage regulator, it activates the springs,
first stage regulator,
which is what happens when we get low in our bottle. It actually ups the pressure from 90 to 100 to 150 to 180 in the first stage regulator, which actuates your vibro.
So that can be confusing. It's just an extra thing to deal with, but it does set off your vibro.
So the next air delivery method that we're going to talk about is replacing the whole face piece, which will go with the MMR together every time. This is when we're determined the face piece has a failure, and we have to determine at that point whether or not he is going to stay on our RIT air supply, or if we're going to put him on his own bottle. That's the determination that we have to go. Whether or not there's multiple failures in this, or if it's just the face piece. And when we do that, once again, the steps beginning this process will be the same. The firefighter on the RIT pack will come up and do the pack can, start at the head, Ryland, realize maybe you got a crack in the mask, whatnot, and determine that we have to replace the face piece and the MMR. The steps in this is it's still two-person. One person will be coming from behind Ryland, knee in the back, keeping him good and sturdy. You'll pull this out. This has to be connected to an air source, obviously. So depending on what's going on with his pack and how much air he has, if he's super low, you're going to probably just go into the RIT pack first, and then we'll determine what we have to do after that. So the steps of it would be the firefighter in the back. His steps are going to be to remove the helmet, loosen the helmet, remove the shroud, and remember, if it's hot conditions, you're not going to want to remove that thing until you're really ready to pull his face piece and replace it with a good one. But if it's just, say, cold smoke, zero biz, you now remove his shroud, loosen his face piece up, keeping pressure on his face so he can still breathe, not take in toxic fume, smoke, all that. And get ready to remove his face piece as the firefighter in front is sitting right in front of him with the face piece to apply it. The firefighter in front, a good hand positioning method is to put your fingers in here. We got gloved hands, so we want to make sure that this gasket captures the outside of his face, and the most important part of this face piece is capturing his chin, their chin, into the chin component of this face piece. We don't want to get this rubber gasket folded on the inside. We will have an inadequate seal, and we'll be chasing our tail through the rest of this operation. Once again, communication, if he can follow commands, take a deep breath for a moment, remove his mask, place it. The firefighter in the front will now be holding it in place, and the firefighter in back will be pulling. This is left kind of reverse style right here with the net in the front, so the firefighter in the back can now pull this over the back of his head, secure it starting at the chin cup with these two big rings. These are built with rings so they can receive your gloved finger. Pull it real tight, seat that chin, work your way up, replace the shroud, replace the helmet, tighten the helmet down. Take a moment to realize what you have this hooked in and whether or not that's your plan upon exiting, or if you have to now transfill, replace this over to him, whatnot. So we're going to go through the steps right now of replacing the full face piece, and we'll keep the same positions here. So I was the rope guy. I came back, Jamie came up, started assessing him, realized we have a mask failure. I come back, Cap, what do you need? Hey, we got to replace his face piece. He's sitting down, I pull him up, I'm now knee in the back, keep him good and firm. So I am just going to start loosening up his helmet. This is a good move, just to take his helmet off and just hang it right back here. I'm going to remove his shroud, and then I'm going to start to loosen his face piece, keeping pressure on it. All right, Ryan. When I tell you hold your breath, we're going to swap masks. Hold your breath. You can take a breath. So before we take this mask off, we want to do a redo. And it's difficult, but getting his chin in the cup, and I don't know if you can see it in the video, but getting his seal around his face instead of over his face is obviously the goal. So how you put the mask on is obviously plays an important role. It's just not the easiest, but we'll try it again and see if we can't get it square. Once we deal with his air, we probably ourselves are going to have to exit the structure because of our air situation. So the captain, who's Kuntz in this scenario, he can get resources coming up that search rope so there's not a delay, and we can head out as soon as we secure Ryland's air and tie in with those crews as they're coming in and tell them what we have and where we're at. All right, let's try to get this a little better.
And remember, like Jenny said, it's gotta be time perfect because we're in high heat conditions right here, so he's taking all that heat.
And you didn't even have to loosen the mask that much. You can rip it off Ryland's face. Ryland, we're going to remove your mask. Hold your breath. Ready, go. Take a breath if need be. I put a little pressure on Ryland's face piece to actuate airflow. It's one of those things that we're doing it right now with no gloves on and we can see. Obviously, we have to learn to do it with gloves and zero biz, and that's what we'll practice. So we are adding in the pack conversion. Don't forget, once you assess the firefighter, deal with his air, you now have him stabilized in that manner. We want to convert his pack before we start moving him. To do that, a couple key points are get him up on his bottle. That way you can work on him. He's almost on like a table that way. Control the waist belts after you remove them. Get a leg over your shoulder, connect the waist belts, never lose control of them, and that way they're easy to connect. Doctor, everything, hit it.
Cinch back up as needed.
Under your second. We may need you.
Leg up on the shoulder, he's gonna release it, maintain control of them, reconnect it, and his pack's converted. So it's important to always convert that pack.
Reflective striping, that's meant for us, so we can see it. At a first glance, it kind of looks like that might be the side that goes up, but this is for us. You got two ends of the strap with loops on both ends with a beaner at one end. This beaner just signifies where the feet should be, so if for some reason you put the feet down here, all you'd have to do is just grab this beaner and reattach it to here. So the goal, let's have you lay down. Your legs are gonna hang off the backside of it. So the goal is to put him down face first. This makes it so he's much easier to drag and this bottle doesn't become a catch point. We do have to take into consideration he's got a mask down here. So if he's conscious and can follow commands, maybe we'll have him kind of protect his mask like this. If not, we're rapidly trying to get him out. Maybe put him to his face to the side. But the move here is to grab these two handles, and marry this whole thing up. Like so. So now, as we go to grab, ready, go. We drag him out. If he slides down, this is a little harness for him.
We get him here, and then it's controlled movement, right? We want to protect his face. Danny, grab it. So it's kind of like a boat at this point. If we can protect his mask and now move, same thing going up or down stairs, protect his face, corners, objects, that type of thing, so we don't dislodge the work we've done. And then pretty clean, easy way to get him out.
And then if we're putting that on top of them, are we strapping that down to that also, or are we just laying it on top of it?
If you're taking, and when we were doing this stuff up in Reno, anytime we were taking that RIT pack as our primary air, we were removing his pack.
Okay, and then just put it.
To give you some additional room for pack.
So when we go to repackage up this RIT tarp, it gets folded up a specific way so the pack can receive it. And it basically folds in on itself twice. So once, and then we go in on itself again. And the key here is to have it the appropriate length, so it's not too long to get in the way of your on-off knob on the RIT pack, but yet long enough to where the Velcro will clasp on itself, because this RIT pack wasn't built for this. This was an afterthought. And if you build it too short, it won't want to secure. If you build it too long, it's in the way of the things you may need. So find a sweet spot on it. And Garrett's got about the right size.
So these are designed to go another drag device. They're real helpful in training, as well as they're rated to be for fall protection. But they're designed to go red around the legs, and then yellow, if I can get this around my foot. This obviously goes on the down firefighter. Red around the legs, yellow through the arms. And that is kind of how you end up having them secured in it.
super clean, great, drag device. If you can manipulate it in the low vis, high stress. I don't know, in all honesty, I haven't had a ton of success with it in training with these. I've had difficulty with them, putting them on, but play with it. It's a good option.